Hello, and welcome back to episode 11 of the Nood podcast. My name is Caitlin. I am your fearless troop leader. I am also a photographer. If you do not know, I've been shooting for the last 10 years and I make art for the unapologetic. I also created the Nood Troop. It's an online subscription service and is the reason for this podcast. And guess what? Today we are getting on a little bit of a tangent. You want to know why? Because it's my motherfucking podcast and we can do whatever we want here. This entire platform has been built to help you feel seen and less alone. That is it. That is the entire goal. And today we're going to talk about health issues, not just health issues, but navigating the world of doctors as somebody who lives in a plus size body and has been misdiagnosed for the last 8 years. Cat's out of the bag. we're just gonna full send it. After 8 years, I have been officially diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, and I have to have a major motherfucking surgery on July 13th, ironically my birthday. Best birthday present I could have ever been gifted. But I want to talk about navigating the health world, doctors specifically, as somebody who lives in a body that is not very small, nor fits the typical dialogue of bodies that are studied in this country. So let's talk about it, because I know I have gone through this. I've spent the last 8 years feeling desperately alone, and I don't want you to ever feel that way. So let's have this conversation. Ironically, I just got off a pre-call with a client who is also having these same issues. So they are not uncommon. I have been dealing with, for the last 8 years, some crazy stuff. This is a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about periods. We are going to be talking about endometriosis. We're going to be talking about some tests that have been done, things that I had to do, processes I had to work my way through. So if any of this is triggering for you, bye. I'll see you next week. I love you. Take care of you and only stay for the things that set your soul on fire. But if you're somebody who has been trying to navigate the same systems that I was or have been for the last few years, there are some things along this journey that have really been helpful that I think could be helpful for you if you are also navigating these waters. So goodbye to the people who feel triggered about this kind of stuff, specifically periods and like menstrual health and reproductive health and all of that good stuff. I'll see you next week. Okay, goodbye. For all the rest of you that are still here, let's dive in. So for my entirety of my life, have had a very complicated relationship with my period. I started very late in life. I was one of my last friends to ever start her period. And when it actually did happen, it was aggressive. It's always been aggressive. And I bled for a few years and then fell into face first into a pretty severe eating disorder. And I stopped bleeding for over a year. Within that time frame, I also was put on to birth control to try and help kind of regulate some stuff. When I was bleeding, it was severe and really bad cramps. And I have kind of always had that. I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. I had my thyroid radioactively killed when I was 15 or 16 years old, and immediately started having like crazy stomach issues, awful periods, all sorts of stuff. And that was starting at about 15, 16, 17 years old. Like it was pretty bad through college, and it's just gotten progressively worse. Fast forward through college, played sports, and I was hurt a lot more than anybody else on the team. And it all had to do with like my low back, my hips, my quads, my hamstrings. And we could never really figure out why, but it always seemed to correlate like with my cycles. Like, I don't know if it was just because my body was in a weakened state or what happened, but when I ended up pretty severely hurt several times, it was oftentimes around the time that I bled, right? And so never really thought twice about it. So in 2018, it would have been the last year I lived in Myrtle Beach. I ended up going to see a specialist to talk about, like what's going on. I ended up having to come off of birth control because of what was happening with my thyroid. I don't have a thyroid, so I have to take hormone replacement, but we could never get my numbers right. So it was kind of in correlation with coming off of birth control because they thought that was part of the problem, and trying to figure out a solution to kind of manage what was happening with my cycle. And so I met with a specialist and I sat down and I said, hey, these are all of the things that have been happening for the last 15 years at the time. And this is what the outcome that I want. I never want children. I would prefer to also not bleed if that's possible. Can we look at an ablation, a hysterectomy, things like that? And I was dead ass looked in the eye and told no. I was told no because I was too young. Basically, I was going to regret the decision is the long and short of it. I asked to be seen by another doctor. There was a female doctor in that same practice. I asked to be seen by her. Pretty much got the same response. I was too young. There was other options that we could do. And what if my partner wanted to have kids later on in life? And that was kind of what it was left as. So instead of having a hysterectomy, we opted for, because it was a communal decision, for an IUD. And that was in the beginning of 2018. From day one, if somebody tells you an IUD is not the most painful thing you've ever had put in your body, I don't know what is. They're lying to you. It is a super aggressive process where they basically go in, they clamp open your fucking cervix, they shove this thing in you, and then they wish you on your merry way, and you're laying on this table bleeding out, and they give you a cookie because you've like almost passed out. They don't offer any sort of like, at the time, 2018, any sort of pain management, nothing. They don't warn you. And I like almost passed out. Immediately started bleeding pretty severely. And I did for the next 6 months. I bled every single day for 6 months. I went and saw the doctor 4 different times. I was put on multiple rounds of antibiotics, both oral and internal, and was basically not believed when they said like, hey, that's not normal. Like, are you sure? Yes, I was literally in tampons every day for 6 months. It got so bad that on the very last time back to my doctor, they refused again to take it out, said, just give it one more couple weeks. Like, it's going to be fine. I said, I can feel the string inside. I will rip it out and give you a reason to have a problem. And then you're going to have to fix it. Like, I was so over it. Within that time, I gained almost 85 pounds and my stomach issues went from bad to like way worse, way worse. And that was in 2018 and we never really addressed it since then. And in 2019, my symptoms got so bad that I started to see like a gut specialist, a colon specialist. It was horrendous. Like my periods were absolutely crippling. They would like take me down for days at a time with the amount of cramps that I had, the amount of bleeding. I was passing like palm-sized blood clots. I still am. So I thought, well, maybe it's colon cancer. Maybe it's something bigger. So I started having all of these tests done, went and had a colonoscopy and endoscopy. I saw multiple specialists. I saw another like PCOS specialist. We tested for IBS, for Crohn's. Nothing was coming back. My blood work was fine. Everything was quote unquote fine, but I knew I wasn't. And so I have spent the last 8 years trying to find doctors. I will tell you this. At one point I was seeing a holistic healer and that healer was massaging my molars. I'm not kidding. Like I paid somebody to massage my molars to see if it would help. I saw dietitians. I saw general practice docs. I was working with an endocrinologist, a specialist for my thyroid. I was seeing multiple gynecologists and nobody had answers for me. It would be like, oh, let's do this, and this blood work, or let's pull this, and this. And I finally was like, guys, I've been asking for this for years. Like, what is it going to take to get a hysterectomy? I finally got a doctor in 2024 to at least agree to it. And September of that year was supposed to be when my surgery was, and they ended up having to cancel. Like after all of this, they ended up having to cancel. We couldn't get scheduled and then I left for a year. So 2025, I was on the road and I got back in December and I had a whole bunch of specialist appointments set up from when I got back until at this point right now. And I finally got back in with a gyno that I really liked. She's based out of Durham and her name is Dr. Ann Martinelli and she's at Chapel Hill OBGYN. They're an incredible office. I will tell you from jump, they've been amazing. If you go in and you tell them that you have concerns about being weighed or needing a plus size gown or a plus size cuff for your arm, for blood pressure, everything is like, yep, we have that. Yep, not a problem. Oh, turn around, we'll cover your weight. Like they have no issues. And if you don't know to ask for things that feel like they're valid in your body, all you need to do is ask. If you do not feel comfortable being weighed, you tell the nurse that. You say, hey, I don't feel comfortable being weighed, or hey, I don't feel comfortable seeing my weight. Most good doctor's office will be like, no problem. If they push back, you say, is there a reason that you need my current weight? What kind of medication do you need my current weight for? ask the questions. You have to be your own advocate because nobody's coming to save us, right? Like they will treat you as poorly as they can if you do not demand better. So demand better. So I asked them not to weigh me. It was not a problem. I've never had an office that just like, sure, no problem. I didn't have to ask for a plus size cuff for my blood pressure. They just swapped it out and didn't make an issue of it. When I went to go like dress down, there was 2 options of gowns that I had the choice. And she told me one is kind of a straight size, fits up to a size like 14, 16. And the other one's a plus size gown. You choose the one that feels good on your body. I was like, I'm sorry, what? So that office is amazing. That office is also the office that like fought for me to get in with several specialists here in the area. And I've never had somebody do that. I've never had somebody who like actually cared enough to listen to what was happening, who understood that this was a very serious thing and like took it for reals. After pulling apart all of my everything, like I've just had another colonoscopy, endoscopy, nothing is wrong with that portion of my body. We did liver ultrasounds. We did a gallbladder ultrasound. We did 13 vials of blood. We've done kind of every test that we could think to deduce what is going on, what is actually happening. And Dr. Ann Martinelli is the only one that sat down and looked at all of these other doctors' notes that I had in a binder and was like, I actually think you have endometriosis of the bowel. And it was the first time anybody ever voiced that endometriosis is a disease that can infiltrate other organs and actually start to take those organs over and make them non-usable. So at its final stages, like the worst that you can have, it can actually penetrate organs like colons, intestines. For me, it's an appendix. It's not really treatable, obviously. But what your cells are doing is reproducing in a fast way like they do in your uterus, just like when your uterine lining has to thicken. Essentially, it is that tissue that's happening on the outside of your uterus. So it can start to infiltrate things like your colon, your bowel, your whatever. And unfortunately, nobody had ever told me that. And so she ended up referring me to it's called MIGS, minimally invasive gynecology surgery. MIGS is a thing all over the country. And they are the people that do the robot surgeries that go in and do robot hysterectomies. They can go in and take out uteruses for cancer, all sorts of things. They go in, it's minimally invasive. But the doctor I got there, the specialist that I got there, told me, which no doctor at this point had ever told me, that there was a MRI that could be done to scan for endometriosis and see where it was. Because what she didn't want to do was go in blind and do a hysterectomy and have my endometriosis actually be infiltrated in my bowel and my colon and all of that, and like not be able to fix it because it is a big deal. It has to, you kind of have to go through reconstruction surgery and all sorts of stuff. And so she said, let's do this. Let's not go in blind and figure out where it is. To that date, not one doctor had ever said that, hey, Caitlin, there's an MRI that we can do that's minimally invasive. Hello. To figure out where your endometriosis is, if you have it. Is it in other organs? Nobody had told me that thus far. All I had ever been told was, we have to go in and do exploratory surgery. I'm sorry, what? So I have to have surgery to explore if I have endometriosis and then have a follow-up surgery? Like, it didn't make sense to me. So what they do is they bring you in, they do this MRI, they fill you with goo, both places with goo, the front and the back. So like your vaginal canal, they fill with this like clear goo, and your anal cavity, they fill with this clear goo. And it allows them to see like if there's endometriosis in your cavity, like in your pelvic cavity. And then they do a contrast dye. So you're in this MRI, they go in, they do a non-contrast portion first, and then they bring you back out. They put the contrast dye in you, and you drink this it's like a sugar drink while you're in the MRI machine, and they push you back in. They do a second set of MRIs. Well, come to find out, I was diagnosed with literally stage 4 endometriosis. And it's so bad that it has gotten into my appendix, which now has to be removed. And I possibly have to have a colon reconstruction surgery based on where the endometriosis is. And on top of that, I may lose both ovaries. One, she thinks for sure, and possibly both. And I say all of this to say, if I had not been diagnosed, if I had not fought this hard to be diagnosed, to figure out what was wrong, her words, my doctor's words were, a bag right now, a colostomy bag is possibly not going to happen. If you had let this go and let this ride out for any longer, it probably wouldn't have been an option. Like, it could have gotten to the point where I didn't have the choice on if we could do the reconstruction surgery or not. And so July 13th, I'm going in for a full hysterectomy, the removal of my appendix, and a possible colon reconstruction. To me, that's crazy because 8 years ago, when I started asking the questions about, hey, I feel like there's something seriously wrong, and they didn't take me serious, and was told, what about your partner? What about, you're going to feel bad about this. You're going to change your mind. You're going to want kids someday. How many people on this planet have the means to fight for a diagnosis for 8 years? Not many. And our system is built to not believe people who live in plus size bodies, specifically, really not even believe women. God forbid you live in any sort of intersectionality, God forbid you're somebody who is already overlooked by the system, who is already not treated with respect and kindness and care. Your diagnosis will go unnoticed. And I just want to sit here and tell you that I see you and that I hear you and I believe you, that when you say something is wrong, something is wrong. I want to put this out there for a lot of reasons, but most importantly, because I want you to know that no matter what is happening in your body, number one, it's not your fault. Number two, you didn't choose this body. You're not being negligent. You're not being somebody who is not respectful of their body. You're just dealing with something that people aren't believing. And I think it's really, really fucking unfair. Here are my tips and tricks. Number one, if you are dealing with things like really heavy bleeding, blood clotting, intense periods. My periods got to the point where I was bleeding. I'm bleeding every like 12 to 17 days. And a lot, like giant palm-sized blood clots. None of that is normal. If they tell you it's normal, it's not. I will do my best to get as many people onto this podcast that can talk into this as possible because I just don't think we have these conversations enough. This is dinner table conversation. Whether we think it's taboo or not, we need to have these conversations because other women need to know, not even women, humans with uteruses need to know that these things are not normal, even though we've been told our whole life that they are. And yes, you do have to really hunt and peck for people that believe you, that believe that your body is doing something that is not appropriate, that is not right? That is not how it's built to run. I'm going to sit here and encourage you to be your biggest advocate. So first and foremost, recognize that this isn't normal. Recognize that you are having issues that are valid, that are concerning. And number three, know that there are tests out there that are not invasive that you have access to. You just have to get with the right doctor. So look into things like minimally invasive gynecology surgery. See if you can get a referral in your area to a MIGS that can do and put the order in for an MRI, a contrast MRI, to see if you actually have endometriosis. Because endometriosis is crippling for a lot of reasons, but it also causes infertility. It causes hormonal spikes. I have been what feels like menopause for the last at least 8 years, if not longer. And all of the signs and symptoms that I have that I thought were menopause, perimenopause, are actually endometriosis. That's crazy. That's crazy. Why are we not talking about that? Right? The same symptoms that you have in perimenopause and menopause oftentimes mirror when you have endometriosis, but nobody fucking talks about it. And so I sit here today and kind of bearing my soul, and it's an 8-week recovery. My surgery date is the 13th of July, and I have to take off work completely for 8 weeks. I cannot do anything. I cannot lift my camera. I can't lift heavy things. I can't work out. I can't walk. I can't swim. I can't run. I can't ride my bike. I can't do anything but rest and recover for 8 fucking weeks because we let it go so long that I now have to have my appendix removed and a possible bowel reconstruction. And that's terrifying. It's terrifying. And it pisses me off to no end that the system is built to not believe people, to nullify what's happening in our body. Like, we don't know that something's wrong. And so my last piece of advice is just to be the biggest advocate for yourself that you can. And if you can't do it on your own, make sure you have an advocate with you that can ask the questions and demand the answers. Demand what you need to know. And if a doctor tells you that they're not willing to run the test, you make sure that they note that in your account, that they are the ones not willing to do the testing that you're asking. They work for you. If they don't work for you, they don't work. Go find somebody else. There's a million doctors out here. There's a million people that you can see, and you just have to keep advocating for yourself because there are answers out here. There are answers out here, and there are answers that honestly weren't that hard to get. Like the MRI took maybe 2 hours of my time. That's it. And we got answers on things that I have been curious about for 8 fucking years. 8 years ago, why was this not suggested? I don't understand, right? So just knowing what you don't know and knowing what to ask is super important. Also finding women or humans with uteruses who are going through similar issues, have similarities to what your story is. Ask them the questions. Is there doctors that you like to see? Are there doctors in our area that actually listen to people who live in plus size bodies? Because yes, doctors don't listen to women, but plus size women specifically, the first answer to every single thing that you come in for is, have you thought about losing some weight? Have you thought about going on a GLP-1? That is their first answer to every single thing. Oh, you broke your arm? Well, you wouldn't have done that if you weren't fat. And I have seen it for the last 30 years of my life. And the only time that I was actually, I feel like, listened to and believed is when I was anorexic, lived in a smaller body. And I know that that is not synonymous. I am not the only person that has felt this way. And if you are somebody who is not believed, whether it be by your doctor or your spouse or your mom or your dad or your siblings, go find somebody who will listen because they are out there. You just have to find them. The doctors that, like I said, the doctor I love that really was the catalyst to all of this was Ann Martinelli. She's in Durham at Chapel Hill OBGYN. She's amazing. She was the very first person who ever sat down and gave me time and attention and listened to my story and charted everything that was going on and was able to kind of diagnose the things that were going on with me by simply listening. And so if you're somebody in the Raleigh area that is really struggling, go see her. I loved MIGS. They were amazing, even though the follow-up hasn't been great. But they referred me to another OBGYN. The jury's still out on this one. I'll let you know if I like her or not. I don't want to recommend her until I know for sure, but I want to encourage you to know that you are not alone, that I see you, that I stand with you, that I support you. And I believe your story. I believe that you know your body better than anybody else on this planet. And I believe that you know that something's wrong if something is wrong. And so I just want you, and I'm going to encourage you again, to be your biggest advocate. And if you can't be, take somebody who can. There are companies that do this for a living. If not your mother, if not your sister, if not your partner, there are people out here who will go and advocate with you. And I think it's super important that you do just that because that is how you get answers. So you're not alone. I'm walking this journey right along with you. And it is infuriating to have to wait 8 years to have a horrendous diagnosis to go, oh, there actually is a problem. So that is all for today. I know this was a tangent from what we're used to, but I just think we need to have these conversations because if we continue to let it just fester in the dark, people will continue just to believe that like, oh, well, nobody wants to treat me and I'm alone. I'm all alone on this island of not feeling good and not knowing who to talk to about it. You're not. There's a million of us out here that are all dealing with the same shit. We're just not talking about it. So let's talk about it. Drop your comments below. And as always, if you want more stuff like this and you want a space that makes you feel at home and welcome and embraced and less lonely, come over to the Nood Troop. It is an online subscription service on Substack. There is a paid and a non-paid option. And we do everything from using art as a way to heal our relationship with our body to having these kinds of hard conversations and chasing your dreams and doing things that set your soul on fire. Because we are not one-dimensional. We are humans that were put onto this planet to experience joy and love and contentment. And we are here to chase our dreams and our passions. And because of that, we can use all sorts of things to do that. We can use art and community and having hard conversations to heal this relationship. So that is all for now. Make sure to check us out on the Nood Troop Substack if you want more. And I'll sign you off and see you on episode 12. Bye.